So a little bit about cash balance. So does the cash ACAM has matched the what? Does the cash ACAM has matched the financial statements? What does that mean?
That's a great.
Tell us.
Well, that's why what we wanted. We wanted to make it difficult for you, so we can
I
answer it.
can't
We can
even
have
read
an
anyone's names or
answer the
anything.
question. That's right.
How do you answer that question?
So it's a great question. It's a great question, at least. So I just wanted to preface the conversation because I know this is lunch and learn and more informal than a more webinars we've done in the past. But the idea behind this today is that we're just going to kind of touch upon ideas that you should be looking at. We didn't really want to get into looking at financial statements, looking at numbers, drilling down into the debits and credits. Figure that's if we want to do that another time, we can.
Mhm.
But all we're going to talk about today is more conceptual ideas, focusing on the 5 areas that you just saw on the screen.
Mhm.
And if you want to invite us back for another more in-depth discussion, we can do that
Never.
as well at
This is
another
it.
time.
That's
Say
As because we do
everything.
understand you are from the management team and not from the accounting department. So we want to tread lightly. Um,
Got it.
so the question here really is that when we're getting, the reason we kind of picked this topic with ACAM is, when we send out our financial statements, as I'm sure other auditing firms do as well, we tend to send it directly to the board, the property management team first. So we're
Mhm.
sending it to ACAM. ACAM then has the opportunity to review it, which is the way we like to have the process flow, where ACAM or any other management firm is looking at the financial statements first and then passing it along to the board or to the accounting department internally. And we figured, since you get it, you may not have an accounting background. What am I supposed to look at? I know I should be looking at it. Instead of just passing it along to the board, what can I look at? So that's kind of the idea here: is what should we be looking at? A couple of items to look at, but maybe ask some questions to the auditors before we go over to the board with the set of financial statements. So the first question might be: is you managing the property? You're looking at the management reports every month. You're sitting in the board meetings with the boards, and you know how much cash theoretically is on hand, not to the dollar, not to the penny, but I have $1 million, $2 million, $500,000. So what if you get the financial statements and it's not that, right? Let's say you thought you had 2 million and it's only 500, or you thought it was 500 and it's really 2 million. So how do we kind of figure out those discrepancies? So why would there be a difference? So the first thing we're looking at here is the first bullet point is ACAM recording all the activity. So a lot of times what will happen is, obviously ACAM has access to all of the operating accounts, escrows accounts, et cetera, that you're managing, but there might be other accounts that are the board held accounts, CDs, reserve accounts, reserve statements. Some statements only come out quarterly, and that activity may or may not be reflected on the internal BJ Murray reports as of that month, right? You're trying to get the reports out to the boards within 15 days after month end. So you may not have gotten that statement yet because they're slow. One of the banks, one of the companies is slow in getting the statements. So there might be some activity that's not there, that when we did the audit, obviously we need to make sure that those balances are recorded, and we test everything. So we would have recorded it where ACAM may not have received those statements to record. So that would be one reason. It's kind of say, all right, well, maybe that's it. Oh, maybe the board has an account with $1 million in it that maybe I didn't know about, or if I'm a new manager to the building. And we've actually had that. I worked with one of your managers on a building that there's like 3 or 4 board held accounts. All the flip tax money goes into those accounts, and it's significant. So it's not recorded on ACAM's books because the board keeps those accounts to themselves, which is a webinar for another time. Therefore you don't see that. So you're like, oh, so that might be one of the answers to your questions is the board has some accounts. The other answer is number 2, outstanding checks on the bank reconciliation. So at the end of each month, your accounting department puts together a bank reconciliation to make sure that all the checks that were written cleared, and all the deposits that were made also cleared. There might be some checks that were sitting out from 4 or 5 months ago. So when we get to let's say a June check never got cashed, or it was a duplicate payment. So it was, one went out, got cleared, and the other one's just still sitting there. So when we do the audit, we'll obviously test a lot of those outstanding checks. And if we see that there was a stale check or a duplicate check, we'll reverse those. And let's say it was a check to a contractor, $100,000 check. where, you've been looking at the monthly report over the last couple of months and it's been, let's say 200,000, and all of a sudden now you see the operating has 300,000. It's because we adjusted that outstanding check on the financial statement to make it to more accurately what it is. So that would be number two. And the last thing that can happen, and again, these aren't the only times that we'll have differences, but the three we wanted to highlight is that a lot of times, and ACAM does a very good job with this, is that when there's an assessment that is going on, monthly assessment for a capital project or of sorts, when the money comes in, the building will, the accounting department will transfer those funds into the reserve account or to a separate money market account. And those transactions may not have happened, until the next month. So you have a $200,000 assessment that's being collected every month for the next 12 months. It was collected in December of 2021. Let's say, for example, it was transferred in January of 22, but we want to reflect that assessment money coming in and that it's restricted as of the end of the year. So we may kind of, for lack of a better term, play around with the balances or allocate between what's operating, what's restricted on the financial statements, which may or may not match up with what ACAM has internally on their financial reports. So those would be one of the other differences that may come up when you're looking at the statement. So again, just make sure you take a look at it. Look at the cash, look at the different buckets. Does it make sense to you? If it doesn't, maybe shoot a question to the auditor. Hey, I see this money market account. I don't know where's that from. I don't know where it's from. Can you give me some color on it? Because maybe it is, it could be wrong. And before it goes to the board, you'll catch it, and you could, and look good in front of the board. So that's
Right.
cash in a nutshell. Those are the things we want to talk about.